What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Streckbein, joined by my main man, Steven Thompson. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk or subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they have declined Najee Harris's fifth-year option, leaving plenty of question marks as to the future of their running back position and what it means for Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren, and everybody included. On top of that, former cornerback coming back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to dive into whether or not Cam Sutton makes sense for this team, and maybe, just maybe, the Pittsburgh Steelers will send Justin Fields back there to return some kicks in 2024. Wild times in this offseason as we approach rookie minicamp and eventually OTAs. It's been a hell of a week, my friend. How you feeling?
Feeling good. I'm warm, man. Summer is here. I told myself I was going to keep off putting my air conditioning in for as long as possible, and I made it all the way to April 29th.
Nice.
So feels really good. I'm very happy about that.
That's not far. That's not terrible,
Not
I guess. Yeah, no, but super early. It's like putting your heat on in like October.
Yeah.
Trying real hard, but it's all right. I'm the same way. We've been sleeping with the AC on for a couple of days. I got the AC about 4 feet from me, and if I don't turn it on in my office, which is up in the attic, it's a sweaty one. It's a rough day. Who didn't have to sweat it out, or who did have to sweat it out, I guess, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then ultimately got some pretty big disappointment, was running back Najee Harris, who had his fifth-year option declined by the Pittsburgh Steelers. $6.7 million. They will not pay him in 2025, making him an unrestricted free agent instead. It was a move that I think to this point we kind of saw coming, but it didn't mean anybody agreed with it. What were your thoughts when it became official that Najee Harris did not have his fifth-year option picked up?
Yeah, not really surprising at all, to be quite honest. I think I kind of saw it coming. It didn't seem like the Steelers had any kind of motivation to make a move on it. I don't think there was much to think about, and as it drew out longer and longer, it was pretty evident that the Steelers just didn't really want to do it, that there wasn't really any negotiating to do. There wasn't really any thinking about it. They were going to let it pass, and I guess just didn't want to let it be known to the world that they weren't going to do it. I mean, it seemed like everyone knew it, but we had to kind of pretend that it was a possibility that they would pick up that option eventually. Yeah, not surprised, but I don't know if this is necessarily the best move for the Steelers long term. I mean, I thought, $6.7 million for a guy like Najee Harris, who has produced at a consistently high level, has only, in my opinion, gotten more efficient, I think, as his career has gone on. It fits so well into this role, this kind of splitting carries role with Jaylen Warren as well. I thought it wasn't a ton of money for a guy who has done so much for you, and that's what I guess surprised me a little bit more. But I think I do understand the logic. I think you look at what the Steelers are going to do on offense this year. They're going to put the ball in Najee's hands a bunch, and if he has a really great season like I'm expecting him to, he's only going to get more expensive. He's only getting older while he does that, and he's going to put more tread on those tires. I think the Steelers just don't want to pay him. Don't want to pay him after a big season. So I guess you understand that. You assume if you're in the NFL these days that you can find that running backs are a dime a dozen, and you can find one in the draft that can be just as good. I'm not sure I believe in that, but it seems to be the Steelers' logic, and they're sticking to it.
Yeah, so just to go through a list here of all the running backs that the Pittsburgh Steelers have had before and during Najee Harris's tenure with the team. Let's just list them off because, as you say, dime a dozen. They're all over the place. You can go find running back anywhere, right? Unless you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. These are the names here: Benny Snell, Jalen Samuels, Fitz Toussaint, Dree Archer, Trey Edmonds, Anthony McFarland, Kalen Ballage, Stephen Ridley, Jordan Todman, Terrell Watson, Gareth White, shout out Gareth White, former Chicago Bear, Josh Harris, Tony Brooks, James, Quadri Olson, and Wendell Smallwood. And then appeared Jaylen Warren, And then it was Najee Harris. I don't think that it's as easy to find a running back as the Pittsburgh Steelers may think it is. Yeah. And I think it might come back to bite them in the butt. That being said, I do think that you could find a running back to be a number two, and I think that taking a shot at finding a running back to be a number two isn't a terrible outlook if you think that Jaylen Warren is your running back one. Do you think that, all the talk of, well, they'll extend him next year if he has a good season, is any of that hold up? Because I won't lie to you. I've heard a lot of it. I believe none of it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, I don't think you needed to wait around and see any more from Najee Harris. And I mean, I think it's. I mean, this guy hasn't slowed down at all at any
No,
point in his career. He has
no.
produced at essentially the same level for his entire career. The only reason his numbers look worse is because Jaylen Warren has progressed and become such a revelation so quickly. I don't know why you wouldn't pay $6.7 million now as opposed to having to pay him maybe $10 million. That's the only reason you're
Yep.
extending him is if he earns that money. Like he has to be good enough to earn that. I mean, if he stinks, you're not resigning him. If he's good, I don't think you're resigning him either for a bigger price tag than you would this year.
No.
So I don't think there's really any chance that they re-sign him. In fact, I think all the talk about this is a prove it year for Najee. We want to see what he does in Arthur Smith's offense. I think this honestly has more to do with seeing if Jaylen Warren can be a number one. Like you said, it's easier to find a number two, and I think they're assuming that Jaylen Warren can be a number one, and that's got to be what they're hoping for, because if Jaylen Warren is not a number one, they're not screwed, but they're in a real tough situation with their running backs room, because you just let a guy walk who has done nothing but produce for you for 3 years, probably going to do the same next year. And if I was a betting man, I'd say do it for the next at least 2-3 years. So they're taking a risk here. They are taking a little bit of a gamble. I get it's not the biggest gamble in the world, but they are taking a gamble nonetheless.
Yeah, so two parts here. I agree with you with the Jaylen thing, and I want to talk about that in a second. But when it comes to Najee, I think Najee's already moved on. I don't think there are chances of re-signing Najee Harris are real whatsoever. Like, if I'm Najee Harris, I'm looking at it and I'm saying I'm going to price myself out of Pittsburgh, because just like you said, you're not going to not pick up his 5th-year option and say, all right, we're looking for another 1,000-yard season, then we're going to pay you $8 million. No, that's not going to happen. Like, they were looking for everything that they had. They knew what they got in a running back. Just like you said, they're looking for Jaylen Warren to become a number one, and for them to say, okay, that's a much cheaper option, that's the guy that we're going to go to. They're just saving face with the whole we're going to extend Najee Harris thing. And, I get it, but you're just saving face. If Najee prices himself out of Pittsburgh, which is very likely, they're not re-signing him. Second to that is, if I'm Najee Harris, why do you want to stay in Pittsburgh? Like, why not? If you're going to go price yourself out of here, if you're going to go at least get an opportunity to test free agency, go test free agency. Any player who has an opportunity to go see what their value is worth before re-signing with their current team should do so, because chances are you're going to make more money in free agency than you are in the team that you are currently on. And I'm sorry, unless the Pittsburgh Steelers go and win a Super Bowl this year, and and even if they do, like, you just won a Super Bowl, cool. Let's keep it trucking. Let's see how much money we can make.
Right. Yeah.
Running back lives are short in the NFL, and if you got a ring, you got nothing else to work for except for money. I don't think Najee has any intentions of coming back to Pittsburgh, and I think that this is the last year, and I think both sides are pretty clear that this is their last year. When it comes to Jaylen, you could tender him. He's a restricted free agent next year, so you could keep him for really cheap. If that doesn't work out, you're screwed. That being said, I'm not necessarily against. I think Jaylen's going to be fine. If I had to pick whether or not I thought Jaylen Warren could turn into a running back one or not, I think he could, and I think he'd be damn good at it. But you're still putting all your eggs in one basket for a guy who's been your number two, to give up a guy who's been a very reliable number one.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, I'm with you. I'm pretty confident that Jaylen can be good and he can be a number one, but there are no guarantees there. Like, I mean, you read off that list of Steelers running backs in the past. I mean, I'm sure there were a bunch of guys in that group that everyone thought had potential, and they moved on, and they moved on them because they didn't work out. They weren't a Najee Harris. I think it's kind of a bird in the hand worth two in the bush type of thing. Like, yeah, maybe Jaylen Warren can turn into a Najee Harris, but you've got a Najee Harris right now. Like, it's I don't know. I think this is a move that kind of is playing too much into kind of the value, like trying to maximize value out of guys, instead of just kind of taking a good player when you have one.
Yep.
And again, like, for not that much money, like $6.7 million is chump change in the grand scheme of things. Like, this is not something, it's not an amount of money that I'm worried about. So I think this is overthinking it to a certain extent, declining Najee's option. That said, if I had to project forward, did I have to tell you, will they be okay afterwards? Will they kind of get away with this? I think they will, quite honestly. I think
Yeah.
they have a ton of confidence in Jaylen, and I don't think that confidence is misplaced.
No, I agree. I think that it works out for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I agree with you. Like, I don't think that the money has anything to do with it. I think the Steelers look at Najee Harris and say, I'm pretty sure you're coming to the end of the line here, and at some point you're going to fall off, and we're not willing to wait around until you do. Like, you're a running back that's going to be 27, pushing 28 by the time his fifth-year option's up. Like, that's not, you're too close to 30 to make that worth anything. So at any moment you could fall off. And I think the Steelers look at it that way. Like, I think they're being kind of like skeptical, like, hey, we don't know if this is going to last much longer with Najee and the amount of workload that we've put on him. And with the knee injury last year, and like how long could somebody hold up? That being said, if he does and he holds up for the next 5 years, and I hope he does, I'm always pro player. I hope Najee Harris has a phenomenal career outside of Pittsburgh. I mean, the Steelers look like they just made a massive mistake, because $6.7 million, especially when you have two guys, like you have your running back duo and an offense that is going to run the football all the time. Why try to fix something if it's not broken? And the Steelers running back game is not broken. Doesn't make much sense to me, but that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's what they've chosen to do. In other news, Justin Fields also had his fifth-year option declined, which we've talked about, and that comes as no surprise. What does come as a little bit of a surprise, and by a little bit, I mean a massive surprise, is that Jaylen Warren dropped on Cam Hayward's Not Just Football podcast that special teams coordinator Danny Smith has some very unique and interesting plans for quarterback Justin Fields, saying that he actually has mentioned Justin Fields returning kicks for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. I mean, backup quarterback, maybe you get 2 QB sets, and then on special teams, screw it, you got to earn your place somewhere. You got to see what you got in this guy. Let's just send him back there to be a kick returner. Who cares about Cordero Patterson? We got Justin Fields. Your thoughts when you heard that?
Yeah, I was pretty excited by this. I think this is pretty cool. Mad scientist Danny Smith cooking some stuff up in the lab. Yeah. I kind of love it. You bring up Cordell Patterson. In the new kickoff formats, it's pretty easy to kick away from a dangerous return guy. And if you've got two back there, that makes you a real threat everywhere. They have to either give you a touchback or kick it to a really dangerous returner. Mm-hmm. And I think also, this is obviously very different from the old kickoff rules. Like, I think it's going to accomplish what it intended to do, and that's limit injuries. So that's the case. Why not? Why not give Justin a chance to see what he can do with the ball in his hands? He's electric. He's proven that over his entire career. I know there are questions about him as a passer. There are no questions about him as a runner. No. So I think it's closer to kind of a normal line of scrimmage play where he can catch the ball and he can see a hole, hit a hole. I think that's a possibility. I would love to see it. I don't think we're going to. No, someone is going to have to save Danny Smith from himself, because this is an idea that is fun, but probably not worth the fun, not worth the risk for the fun.
Could you imagine if you're saying, hey, Cordero, I know we just signed you 2 years to be our kick returner. You're our guy. We love it. So excited. We're going to put Justin back there. Justin's going to be our kick returner just to start the season. We'll see how it goes. If he doesn't die, then we'll toss you back there. I think that'll work out just fine. Look, I'm all for it. I was saying before the show, Justin Fields rushing over was the easiest bet in football the last 2 years when he plays. It doesn't matter what the number is. You hammer the over because it's just that easy of a bet. I think the dude is electric with the football in his hands. I think this goes two ways. If you are thinking about Justin Fields as a quarterback at any point in the NFL, you're not putting him back there. You're not saying, you know what, we'll just risk it. You know what, screw it. We just extended him for 2 years, and we feel really good. And this is guessing that they're going to extend him. Let's go put him as a kick returner. And second, you have some pretty good kick returners. You have Cordero Patterson. You have Calvin Austin. You can put Jaylen Warren back there. I'd feel great about Jaylen Warren as a kick returner. I just feel like there's a lot of names before you go backup quarterback. And I get it. If we're playing Madden, I'm all about it. But regular real-life football, a little bit dangerous for a guy who's not supposed to get hit and should probably not be getting hit in Justin Fields. So, you think we see one in practice?
Oh, God, I hope so. Man, wouldn't that be? That's probably going to be the 2024 equivalent of the Kendrick Green fullback moment. Is going
Yeah.
to
Oh,
be
way better. Way
yeah.
Kendrick
Oh yeah.
Green, fullback, cool. Justin Fields taking a kickback. That's like you've never seen that before in your life. Never.
Yeah. Yeah.
Revolutionized football.
That's a perfect bust it out at the Friday Night Lights practice and just watch the crowd go absolutely nuts when they see him jog out there.
Nuts. Yeah.
Do you think Justin would push for it?
I don't know about push for it, but I think he'd be all for it. Like, I think anybody who's on the bench would be like, hell yeah, put me in there. But at the same time, I'd be like, all right, but I want this to be an understand. I'm not playing wide receiver. I am a quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
/ kick returner, and that is all. That is as far as we get there. I think it's going to be awesome. I hope we get to see it, at least, even if you're going to put a red jersey on him. Like, I hope we get to see it one time just to light the crowd up. It would be sick. Guys, this is a public service announcement, and it is urgent. You think that you have mastered the look in sweatpants and joggers? Well, guess what, my friend? You have not. You are one step away from wearing pajamas in public, and your significant other is starting to think that you look like a slob. It's time to take your sexy ass and put it in some jeans. If you take anything away from today's show, it's that the perfect jean isn't just another pair of stiff, uncomfortable, nut-crushing pants. They have cracked the code on solving your denim difficulties, and it is time to rejoice. Check them out. Always looking good. The Perfect Jean makes great looking, perfect fitting jeans that are as comfortable as sweatpants and more stretchy than a kangaroo's pouch. It's made from a special denim fabric that's super soft, just like sweatpants, just like joggers, but it doesn't make you look like a slob. And the best part, they make 6 fits from skinny to thick. Waist sizes from 26 to 50 and lengths from 26 to 38. So whether you are a thick guy or a short king, or guess what, anything in between, they perfectly fit your body and accentuate your assets. Pun intended. Trust us when we say that these are truly fucking perfect jeans. Once you try them on, you'll never go back. Once again, boom. For a limited time, our listeners get 15% off their first order plus free shipping at theperfectjean.nyc, or just Google The Perfect Jean and use our code ALLSteelers15 for 15% off. Look it. I have been looking for a while. I have been talking to my fiance daily. I need to find a look. I've tried them all. I tried khakis. I tried joggers. I tried sweatpants. I tried shorts. Nothing fits me like the perfect jeans fit me. The Perfect Jean doesn't just stop there, though. They've revolutionized t-shirts as well. The Perfect Tee has just enough stretch to hide the beer belly while accentuating your arms and chest for that flawless look. It's soft like butter without shrinking in the wash like all your other t-shirts. It's just, perfect. The Perfect Jean always has free shipping, always has free exchanges, and always has free returns. So you can have peace of mind knowing that your order is completely risk-free. It's finally time to stop crushing your balls in uncomfortable jeans by going to theperfectjean.nyc. Our listeners get 15% off your first order plus free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges when you use our code ALLSteelers15 at checkout. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectjean.nyc with promo code ALLSteelers15. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please, please, please give us some support and tell them that we sent you. Fuck your khakis and get the Perfect Jean. All right, moving on. Let's talk some Steelers corners. So Omar Khan the other day confirmed that the Pittsburgh Steelers met with Cam Sutton to discuss, both his fit in Pittsburgh and also just everything that's been going on Pittsburgh Steelers way. Check in on your own, make sure everybody's good. He also said that they might have another option in undrafted free agent Beanie Bishop, and that because of him, they feel pretty good about where the Pittsburgh Steelers are at slot corner. My mind immediately went, you're going to pass up Cam Sutton for an undrafted guy who has yet to make the roster, but they think in different ways, as we've learned very heavily today, actually. It's been a real Steelers mind is a little different than the rest of us type of podcast here. Your thoughts on Cam Sutton potentially rejoining the Steelers? Does it make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, how in on Beanie Bishop are you?
Yeah, so I think Sutton, from a football perspective, is a little bit of a no-brainer. I mean, it's a guy who knows the system. It's a guy who's been here, a veteran, which I feel like is really valuable in this system, in this defense. I'm a guy that Joey Porter can learn from. I know Joey's really grown up quickly, but still only in his second year, so I think Sutton could be valuable from that perspective. Um, Sutton's legal issues do worry me a little bit, even if he's cleared in the eyes of United States law. There's still a process to go through with the NFL that could lead to a suspension and missing some time. I don't think you want that. Um, so I think that gives me a little bit of pause. The football, I mean, I think you just got to wait and see how that plays out before you
Yeah.
really make any decisions like that. And I assume you won't have competition from other teams who are itching to sign Cam Sutton until that stuff is resolved as well. So I think you could buy yourself a little bit of time there.
Yeah.
That said, I'm all in on Beanie Bishop. I'm a big Beanie Bishop guy, man. Like I'm really excited about this guy, and I think Omar Khan is too. I think that is genuine. I think listening to the way that he talked about Bishop, he was pretty surprised that Bishop fell out of the draft and wasn't a drafted guy.
Yeah.
He seemed to kind of think, wow, this was not someone we expected to even be in the draft pool. Maybe even if he was a 7th round pick, it doesn't seem like Khan thought he was going to have a shot at bringing this guy into Pittsburgh. So I think that appreciation for him is real. That belief in his potential is real, and I kind of buy into it. I think Bishop is tough. He's physical. He's got some versatility. And I mean, of all the I mean, it does make me wonder a little bit how he went undrafted while Ryan Watts, who I don't know, like it's a good player, but I don't think he was better than Beanie Bishop, you know?
No. No.
So I wonder why Bishop fell so far. I'm glad he did, I guess, because the Steelers probably wouldn't have had a chance at him if he did get drafted. They definitely wouldn't have had a chance at him if he had gotten drafted. So I'm in on Bishop. I think it's such a wide open room that you can't count out him starting at all. I mean, you obviously have concerns if you throw in an undrafted rookie out there to start, but of all the undrafted rookies in the world, Bishop is one of those guys that I have as much faith in as anyone that you could have possibly brought in elsewise.
Yeah, I'm a big Beanie Bishop guy. It really worries me to toss an undrafted just like this early. For your GM to be like, I don't know, man. I feel really good about Beanie Bishop. I'm all for giving guys an opportunity, but I'm really heavily on the Omar Khan BS smokescreen alert here, and I don't know. He's just getting worse and worse. I feel like with the lies, with the just cover it up. The undrafted guys. You're telling me that the general manager of a football team is like, you want to know who might be our starting guy and who I feel really good about? The guy that we didn't draft, the guy that we chose to draft Ryan Watts over. Actually, that's who we feel really good about. I just makes me a little like skeptical that they actually. I'm not saying they're not high on Beanie Bishop. I'm saying that if after I listened to that, if you asked me, do you think the Steelers are not going to add a corner? I'd say, no, the Steelers are definitely going to add a corner because Omar Khan just tried to cover up his tracks by saying the undrafted guy out of West Virginia is the reason they're not going to sign a corner. And again, I think Beanie Bishop's a stud. I think Beanie Bishop could turn into Mike Hilton. I think Beanie Bishop could be a long-term starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It makes no sense that they drafted a corner before Beanie Bishop. And if I had to guess today, like if I put out my 53-man roster projection, Beanie Bishop would be on there before Ryan Watts and possibly guys like Corey Trice. Like I would guess Beanie Bishop makes the roster before any of those other guys just because I have a lot of hope in Beanie Bishop. Just to bring this to Cam Sutton, I think Cam Sutton makes a ton of sense. And I think that Omar Khan, trying to avoid the situation of Cam Sutton, tried to say, yeah, Beanie Bishops, we're good. We feel really good. Which my alarms went off and said, if I had to guess, Cam Sutton's going to end up in Pittsburgh, and he's probably going to be the starting slot corner. And I think that's the best case scenario for the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially if Beanie turns out to be something. Like if you could go into the season with Joey, Dante Jackson, and Cam Sutton with Corey Trice and Beanie Bishop coming off the bench with wherever Ryan Watts ends up, that's a good young, little mix of cornerbacks that I feel pretty good about, strictly NFL wise, like strictly football wise. Everybody's going to talk about their off the field issues with Cam right now. I get it, and I'm trying to avoid all that. But just talking strictly football, That's a pretty good spot to be in. And if I had to guess, the Pittsburgh Steelers are thinking it too. Omar Khan is just really, really bad at, this falls under the same category as like, yeah, James Daniels could play center,
Yeah.
and there's no wide receiver trade in the works, but we are talking to people, but I won't mention that the first time. I think it falls into the same thing.
Yeah. So you said Cam at the slot and Beanie, if it works out, then you got Dante on the outside. Is Cam exclusively a slot, or could you see him maybe bumping outside and maybe like one of those younger guys like Trice or Bishop or someone like that sliding into the middle or the slot?
I don't think Corey Trice could be an inside guy. I think he's exclusively outside. He's a big, lengthy guy. Like I think he's I just don't think he might be. I don't know. Inside's like a whole
best used outside.
Yeah. Like inside's a whole other position. I feel like you got to be bred to play the inside slot position, and I think Cam Sutton has been. I think he's really good at it. Obviously, that's where Beanie Bishop plays. Corey's more of an outside guy. Darius Rush can be an inside guy. I could see Cam Sutton bouncing out, being an inside and outside guy. I think that's honestly what suits him best, is to play the slot and then bounce out when you need him, when somebody else has to come off the field, and then allow the younger guys to get some reps. But I think that's the best case scenario for the Pittsburgh Steelers, is to line up with that. Just because, you could put Dante Jackson on the inside, but he's got so much speed. Why wouldn't you not put him on the outside?
I think I agree with you. I think the Omar Soak screen is up a little bit. I think, he wouldn't have talked as highly of Beanie Bishop. I think he is high on Beanie Bishop, but wouldn't have spoken as highly of him if he wasn't approached about the Cam Sutton thing first. I think that's something that he has to kind of wait on for a number of different reasons. I mean, even if there weren't off the field issues, I think that's something that Omar would want to keep under wraps for as long as possible. So I agree with you there. And I think he's like, there's no way they're not, like, even if you have all the faith in the world in Beanie Bishop, I don't think there's a way that they don't sign another cornerback because look, Dante Jackson, I know they said when they traded for him that they were like, we had an opportunity to go get a good player, so we just traded Deontay Johnson straight up for Dante Jackson. That is not an even trade, and I don't think that's one that Omar Khan makes if it is not his last resort or his only option.
Yeah.
So Dante Jackson, love you. I think you got a lot of potential, but I don't think the Steelers are going to walk into next season with you and Joey as their only starting caliber cornerbacks and then rely on a bunch of, they're outside of Jackson and Porter Jr., I don't think there's anyone else on the roster who's played in an NFL game before.
Darius Rush, I think, has played in one, maybe two.
Yeah, but he was the vast majority of his career has been sent on the practice squad. Obviously, Corey Trice, not played at all. So there's not enough experience on this team to say, yeah, we're good with Dante Jackson and Joey Porter Jr., and if one of them goes down, then, who cares? Like, that is kind of the situation they were in last year. I mean, they not necessarily the same thing, but they had so many guys go down, and you saw their depth get really exposed. I can't imagine they go into next season without some extra depth, some extra insurance behind Porter and Jackson and probably one more guy.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think is? I think it's going to be hilarious if when Troy Fautanu's got to fight for a starting job over Dan Moore Jr., but Beanie Bishop is the guy that they're like, you know what? I think he's worth starting. I think we should just toss him in there. Joey Porter Jr. couldn't start over Levi Wallace, but you know what? I think we got to start Beanie Bishop. Like, that's the guy.
Yeah. I was going to say both Broderick Jones and Joey Porter, guys who are surefire starters this year, who were obvious upgrades as soon as they stepped on the field. Those guys had to wait, had to wait their turn, had to prove themselves, had to get up to speed. But the Beanie Bishop, the undrafted free agent, that's the guy that we're going to throw into the fire right away.
That's it. There's no hiding it. It's Beanie Bishop's the guy. He's just the guy. He would have been their Steelers' first-round pick if they had another one. Probably.
Think about slot value. Like, you're not gonna, if no one else is gonna take him in the first round, then
that's what I'm saying. They knew how the board was going to shake out. They said, why would we waste? We're not going to waste the money on that guy. We got to potentially pick up Najee Harris, because they were still thinking about Najee Harris' fifth-year option.
True.
During the draft. They had until May 2nd.
True, and the Brandon Ayuk salary, the new extension contract that you're going to give him after you trade for him, that was all a consideration as well. So there was a lot going on, a lot of financial work that they had to do to.
Ton of it, which is why they're chilling with $18 million still. And, but there's no wide receiver. There's nothing in the works because teams just need $18 million. Yep. That makes a lot of sense. The smoke
Yeah,
screens are real. Omar Khan spin them all.
yeah. Whenever you have $18 million, the best thing to do is to not spend it.
That's what they say. It's actually it's essentially like, you know, an actual business where
Yes.
it just rolls over and the boss gets like a good, nice bonus check or something. That's Art Rooney's like, dude, why would you spend all of our money on good players? That sounds terrible. We needed a fax machine. So it's the smoke screens are real. Omar Khan's, he's doing a good job. And in a couple of years, I think he's going to be really good at this. But right now, it's year 2 or year 3 or whatever, and you know he's getting there. I got full faith in Omar, and he's doing a good job. The smoke screens we'll work on.
Honestly, it's pretty helpful because if he says one thing, it's pretty easy to tell when he's trying to misdirect you somewhere, to the point where it's like, oh, he wants us to look this place. Like
100%. 100%. Meanwhile, Mike Tomlin is like, he says something, and you're like, I shouldn't believe it, but I want to believe that because it sounded very believable.
Yeah, and then a week later, he's like, yeah, I lied to you guys because I like messing with you.
Yep. So as long as Omar doesn't get there, I'm cool. I'm cool with the smoke screens and being real bad at them. So we'll see. But this one, I think a bit of a smoke screen. Definitely think a bit of a smoke screen. With that said, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as we've been saying, go check out our new YouTube channel, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk clips. We will be back on Monday. It's the weekend already. We'll be back on Monday. Enjoy a beautiful weekend in the Berg. Peace.